Episode 4. Episode 4 of this town starts with Eamon talking about the spirit of defiance and how that ties into the hunger strikes currently going on. As the camera pans round, we see Bardon on the opposite side of the table. One man is working an explosive on a table. This guy is called Terry. Unlike Eamon's calm demeanor, Bardon is on edge. They're about to take part in another operation and he's nervous. The explosive is set to go off in 30 minutes and they can't disable the timer either. As they drive, they find roadworks right where they want to drive through. As we find out later on, this was 100% intentional and done by Greg behind the scenes. Although Eamon chalks it up to bad luck, Terry is suspicious. Meanwhile, Jeannie prays to God to break her promise she initially made to Nazi Dante to save him from a beating. They talk in a phone box together, where Jeannie points out there's a perfect place in Coventry for them to record their music. Dante loves the place, and he shows up with Jeannie to scout the venue. However, Fiona is here too, and she blags her way into the band, believing that she can play the drums. After all, it's just banging sticks. How hard can it be? Well, Dante shuts her down and decides he wants to be professional. The thing is, Fiona actually does know the industry quite well. She works at a record store owned by Mr. Carmen and talent scouts go in there all the time. Jeannie recognizes this and later in the episode speaks to her in confidence. She knows that this is a do-or-die industry and yes, they do want to be professional but similarly want to do this right. Jeannie proposes that they work for Fiona and bring her on. She agrees. Before we reach that point though, Bardon shows up at the venue. They practice their song about Estella, as the words echo in the background. We then cut to Estella herself, who heads back to her apartment, drinking and collapsing on the bed. When Dante shows up, he finds the place completely trashed. Estella is on the bed, but her ring has been stolen by thugs looking for an easy target. Dante decides to put the place back together again. He wants Estella to do backing vocals, and when she awakens, explains that it's benefit day and that's why her gear was stolen. At the same time, Bardon spends time with Jeannie. They head back to the estate, where Jeannie gives him a big hug before they part ways. It's a glimmer of sunshine in an otherwise gloomy situation. Bardon heads off to see Greg, where they discuss what's been happening. He also gives Terry's name as the bomb maker. In exchange, Greg tells him to stay close to Eamon and visit the Gatehangs Well pub. He needs to listen for the name Lemongrass. If he hears this, it means they've taken the bait. Greg shows up to see Mr. Carmen and decides that he wants to take on high-level work. Specifically, he wants to be part of the powder room. Carmen is not happy that his secrets have been leaked, but Greg calls his bluff. He suddenly points out that he doesn't want to work for him but wants info on his friends in Sparkhill. Next, Greg arrives up to see Wire. He's on edge too and explains that every boat in Birmingham is currently rocking. He organizes a meet with those in Sparkhill who show up at the pub. He plays this game well, pointing out about the informants and Lemongrass and a request to meet their boss. Eamon catches the kids who stole from Estella. The guy is panicked, and Eamon wants to make him pay and torture him. Bardon, though, doesn't want any more bloodshed and decides they should instead just get the info they need and get the rings back. After threatening him with the gun, he gets what he needs. And just like that, she brings the rings back to Estella. However, Estella's relief turns sour when she realizes Bardon used a gun to persuade the robbers to get this back. She can sense the dark path he's on, and when he and Dante leave the apartment, armed guards suddenly show up and grab Bardon, bundling him in the back of the car. They take him straight down to prison and begin beating him down. Dante is shocked, and he heads up to the bridge where he stands on the edge with tears in his eyes. Dante is a kid that gets obsessed easily, and some of that stems from the past where he initially loved birds, explaining the birdsong, and also spacemen, explaining the astronaut suit. Here, though, it's Greg that talks him down. Greg explains that he set up Bardon intentionally to get him arrested, suffering a beatdown and letting him go. This was to try and get some of the suspicion off of him as an informant so he won't be killed by IRA. When they head back home, Greg and Dante find their dad has company. Deuce is in bed with Estella, and while Dante is oblivious to all of this, Greg tells his pa to make sure he raises Estella up, rather than let her drag him down. The episode review. This episode slams on the brakes somewhat after such a frantic few episodes packed full of action. Interestingly, we learn a lot more about Dante's vision of the world and how he's a dreamer and somewhat disassociated from everything around him in the world. After all, seeing Bardon taken from the streets, his first reaction is that he's lost his lead singer for the band. Meanwhile, Greg is the glue that holds the family together, using his tactics to try and navigate this minefield and do right by his family so they're not left in the dust. Although this episode is a tad slower and doubles down on the singing montages, there's enough here to enjoy all the same. Roll on the next EP.